Welcome everyone to this LinkedIn live session. I'm Saeed, founder of NextStars, a global venture studio, an accelerator that helps entrepreneurs turn their ideas into successful global companies. Before NextStars, I founded TranQool, which became Canada's leading mental health platform. That journey taught me something important. The people who need mental health support the most are often the ones that they fail to ask for it. And nobody fits that description more than and better than entrepreneurs. Today, we're having a conversation that's long overdue. We're talking about the mental health challenges facing founders, high achievers, and ambitious professionals. I'm thrilled to be joined by Dr. Gina Di Giulio, founder of PathWell, who specializes in mental health for high achievers. She understands the unique pressures that come with big goals and has dedicated her career to helping people succeed without sacrificing their well-being. Dr. Di Giulio, thank you for being here and welcome to the program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Yes, if you do a brief introduction beyond what I said to our audience, that would be lovely.
Sure. So thank you for having me, first of all. So Dr. Gina Di Giulio, as Saeed said, I'm the founder of PathWell. So PathWell is a sort of call a 360 mental wellness firm here located in downtown Toronto in the financial district. So we do provide mental health and coaching for leaders and entrepreneurs, but not exclusively that. We also provide support for their loved ones as well and family members. So with the bench of clinicians that we have, we see everybody from sort of ages 5 plus. We work with individuals, with couples, with families, but we also work with organizations as well, providing mental health coaching and leadership training and development as well.
Wonderful. So what really draw your focus? Because I know you for like now 10 years, give or take. And one of the biggest areas of focus for you has always been this specific group of high achievers or entrepreneurs. What really drew you to this specific group, and what patterns did you see that made this your mission?
Yeah, I almost fell into it accidentally. So prior to founding Pathwell, I used to work at one of the largest executive health clinics in Canada, and I was the director of mental health there. So it was really through my work at that clinic that I became sort of exposed to executives, leaders, entrepreneurs, and really enjoyed supporting them. Just sort of love them. In a way, they were like my ideal clients because they're so like goal oriented and motivated and just so rewarding. But in working with them, it really sort of came to my realization that this is a segment of the population that was really underserved and needed specialized care. And I thought, well, I'm going to sort of make it my mission to provide those specialized services to this very sort of unique and wonderful population that needs it, because they are in a unique position of really sort of being responsible for so much, and they have to do so much. They have to wear so many different hats in the same day. And it also sort of takes, I think, a clinician to really understand that, to be able to work with them. And now I'm in the same boat as well. So I've owned my own business for almost 6 years, and so can really appreciate not just clinically, but firsthand as well, some of the unique challenges and needs that entrepreneurs and leaders have.
Yeah, you touched on a few very important aspects, but sometimes these high achievers or entrepreneurs, they're reluctant to talk about their own challenges. Where do you think that comes from?
I think it's a few things. So I think that leaders are just naturally wired to be problem solvers, not to disclose or talk about their problems. I think, although we are getting better, I still think, though, that there is a bit of a stigma around mental health. And some leaders do feel that if they disclose, that it's going to be negatively perceived by others as, a weakness or a
Yes.
shortcoming, right? Or they worry that, they can't disclose because they'll be, I don't know, risking the trust of their teams or their clients or their investors. None of that is true, and we'll get into more of that today. But yeah, I think it's a combination of sort of personality, how they're wired, this idea that they have to figure everything out themselves, but also some, I think, unhelpful thoughts around disclosing mental health and what that means.
I certainly resonate with that. And I think one of the mistakes that high achievers or leaders or executives can make is to associate their uh, kind of power figure with their vulnerability. Often, being out there it helps build some deep connections with the people that you lead. And this is really like needs to be looked at as an opportunity rather than a risk. But
Right.
what are some of those early signs of burnout that, like, specifically our target audience are founders? That they're driving these massive ideas and they have to report to investors, and they're always under pressure. They feel like they have to be always available. What are those early signs of burnout that they can say, "Oh, okay, associate with burnout," and then we can talk about what to do with those early symptoms.
Yeah, there are a few. I think sleep is one of the greatest barometers of overall health, including mental health. So, looking for changes in sleep, and this could mean, difficulties falling asleep, difficulty staying asleep, waking up too early, or, sleeping a decent amount of hours but not feeling rested upon awakening is another sign. So, look for changes in sleep. Also, look for changes in mood, specifically irritability, feeling a bit more impatient, or starting to feel a bit sad, an increase in anxiety. Burnout often shows up in terms of like physical symptoms. Our bodies are also good barometers as to what's happening in our minds. So, looking for things like headaches, just muscle tension, the gut, so stomach issues, or changes in focus and concentration. But and this is not an early warning sign, this is a bit later, but a big red flag for burnout is cynicism, not caring as much. Having thoughts like, well, I don't care about, this decision. Who cares? It's not going to matter anyway. So cynicism in the workplace is a huge red flag for burnout.
And many of these symptoms, I think, we have to be mindful about. That means we know the baseline. We
Right.
understand the baseline. And we always remind ourselves that, like to be mindful of these changes because our body is speaking with us. And
That's
mental
right.
health, but also many physical health problems. Body is kind of trying to grab,
Yes. Yes.
but
And entrepreneurs are kind of wired just to keep going, right? Like to
exactly.
push through that and ignore. And that's another problem,
And
right?
it's
Is
a
it
big problem
ignoring these?
because it's maybe like misadvertised to entrepreneurs that suffering is just part of the journey. You have to really sacrifice yourself for a greater good of your company. Is that, first of all, like you've seen a lot of successful people, I'm sure, in your practice? Is
Mhm.
that at all true, first and foremost? And where do you think that comes from?
I think so. I think there's still this culture of, entrepreneurship is a grind. And sometimes that's also like held to be, I don't know, like this, like a medal of some kind, right? That to be an entrepreneur, yeah, just means, you always have to grind, you always have to be on. And that's just not true. I don't know where that comes from, but that's just not sustainable, right? For anybody. It's not true and it's not sustainable.
Um, I think it's often. when people like these successful entrepreneurs, they're invited to like podcasts or workshop, they are not very truthful about their journey,
Yeah.
and it makes sense because it's marketing, right? It's not meant to be truthful, and that has created this illusion of an entrepreneurship for many people, that they think, oh, like, it's supposed to feel a certain way, the act of building, or your suffering is just part of the journey. Like, no one deserves to suffer, specifically long term, whether for building a startup, or working at a job. We're in this planet to enjoy,
Right.
and we often lose sight of that. But I've heard a lot, and I've felt myself sometimes this, that building a business or entrepreneurship is a lonely journey. Like, the isolation becomes a big part of the day-to-day life of an entrepreneur, because no one gets what they're doing, or no one gets the challenges they have. And like, what have you seen from your clients or patients? Is that a big issue, and how to really break that vicious cycle for ourselves if we ever start getting into that mode?
Yeah, I'm so glad you brought this up because I hear this a lot, right? There's the old adage that it's lonely at the top, right?
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean it can be, right? So why is that? Well, leaders have to absorb so much pressure that they can't share with their teams, right? And so it can feel like you have nobody to talk to because that might actually be true, right? It's also true that sort of the higher you climb, the less peers you have around you, right? You're in a sort of, you start to get sort of more and more isolated in that you're more of a unique, almost like a unicorn. And so you can have less like-minded people around you, right? So yeah, it can be lonely at the top, but what I say to my leaders is it doesn't have to be. Okay, so what I recommend, and this is, I'd invite your listeners to think about this at all as well. So what I recommend to all of my leaders and entrepreneurs is you have to build a personal board of directors for yourself. So I'm not, talking about a legal entity or it's nothing official, but an informal personal board of directors. So these are people that you will handpick, maybe like four to six people
Right.
that you can talk to about anything, that get it. They don't have to be from within your industry. In fact, I would recommend that most of them are not, right? Because they then will give you a different sort of perspective. You can have maybe one from your industry, but have everybody else be someone different. People that you can sort of bounce ideas off of, but people who will also tell you the truth, right? Because leaders often have, yes people around them because they work for them, right? And they can't tell them the truth. So you want people on this personal board of directors who will be honest with you and just sort of, tell you the things as they are, not how you want to hear them. And that can be really, really helpful. I would invite your listeners to think about this and do this for themselves. Because when you have this group that you can always call upon, it's not as lonely anymore. I feel strongly like no entrepreneur should run a company by themselves. You can be a solopreneur in that, yes, you're the only like founder of your company, or you're the only, like I'm the only sort of owner here of PathWell, but I wouldn't say, oh, I'm running this company by myself. Like that's just not sustainable, right? No entrepreneur should say or truly feel that they are running their companies by themselves, but have a space of people that you can call upon. That is so important. And then it doesn't feel so lonely.
But how do we find these people? In your experience, are they like classmates? Like, do you find them in clubs? Because
Yeah, you
I
can.
give you
You
my own
can.
example. I have people that I play tennis. Well, I used to before my injury. I play tennis with, or go for a round of golf, and then I have like business advisors, and then like, who is this board of director like consist of? Like, what is the character of them, and how do I find them?
The character is that. So they're reliable. You can call upon them. They will listen to you and they will give you honest feedback.
Yeah.
Maybe they, have expertise in an area that you're not strong in, right?
Oh,
They
so
they
they
can.
don't have to be your friends. They can be like,
No, no, no,
oh,
no, no,
okay.
no, not at all. They do not have to be your friends at all. But and your board, the consistency of them can change over time as you change and your business changes. You sort of add and take away seats. But no, these are, or it could be friends. Your coach. I am on the personal board of directors on so many people, like my clients. I can't even tell you. They will tell me because I'm sometimes the first. Like thinking of now, like the Rolodex of clients. Something's going on in the company of one of my clients. Boom, they're right away. Dr. Gina, I need to talk to you today. This happened. Blah blah blah. I'm on this person's personal board of directors, right? So it can be professionals, it can be friends, it can be colleagues, it can be peers, but people, I think the main characteristics of these people is that they listen to you, they're reliable, they're trustworthy, and they're going to be honest with you.
I like that changed my perspective. I agree. I think now I get it. Like they can actually like treat it like your own company's board of director. Try to bring
Yes.
people that you can bounce off ideas in different
Right.
aspects. But they're not talking about your firm. They're talking about you,
Yes.
the leader of the
Yes.
you as the
Someone you can go to. Exactly. And you say, you know what? I'm really struggling today. I had this decision. I don't know what to do. I have this, team member, this is going on. Or I don't know, I'm starting to feel frustrated. I feel like I don't know, I'm not as sharp anymore. Like it could be anything, right? Have these people to talk to, and then it doesn't have to feel so lonely at the top. It takes some work. You have to cultivate your supports around you, but the peers are out there. When you're at the level of being an entrepreneur, a leader, you do have to sort of go out and put some work into seeking these people.
Understood. Got it. And for the next question, I'm a little bit guilty of as well. Like this culture of being always on. I think that kind
Mm,
of a lot to and I make it my mission also to like be always available for the client, for my employees. For I don't have investors at this point, but I used to, and then always like 2 a.m. Like I almost like one took pride in responding 3:30 in the morning. But where this culture comes from and how is it really necessary, like it, or it's just a made up badge of honor.
No, it's real. And I'm laughing because like, oh, guilty as charged. That was me in,
Yes.
in year one. Like you could ask any of my team members. I had to stop. I was like, no, stop, Gina, stop.
Yeah.
Like writing the emails at 2 a.m. because that's also not a good example for them either. Right. So I had to, guilty as charged is hard. But yeah, this always on, sort of startup effect is a thing. It's real. And it can absolutely affect mental health in the long run, right? We're not designed to be on all the time. We're just not physically and mentally built for that. I don't like no nothing is what's designed right to be on all the time. And the problem with this idea that one needs to always be on, always be available, is that it erodes the ability for an entrepreneur to stop and to rest. And rest is the foundation of emotion regulation, which is the foundation of good mental health, right? If you think of like any athlete, elite athlete, right? They have rest built into their training programs, right? It's a necessity. And when you're an entrepreneur, when you're a high performing leader, you are exactly the same as a high performing athlete. Like you're all we're all here LeBron James, so you have to do the same thing. You have to build rest into your work life. And in entrepreneurship, it's like you're running a marathon that is years long, right? If you sort of sprint out of the gate and you try to always maintain that pace, you're going to fall, right? That's not sustainable for anybody. So you have to think of it, you're running a very long marathon. Sort of steadiness, pacing is so important. right? So you have to stop, like you're running a marathon. You have to stop for water once in a while. You have to stop and take some stretches. You have to stop and say, okay, am I running the right way, right? But you need to do that periodically in order to make it to the end of the race. So this always on culture impedes that, and it's not sustainable, and it will 100% erode your mental health, because again, we are not designed to be on all the time.
I love your notion of these elite athletes. I love myself like Novak Djokovic, watch document, and also like Roger Federer,
Same.
all time favorite. But it really reminded me of a sentence in a documentary on Novak, and that's like it's like resting is as a discipline.
Yes.
And that's why he can continue being who he is at the age of 38, like after winning 24 slams, still at the top of his game. And the only way you can do this is by maintaining yourself, like your mental and physical well-being, to be always on the top. It's very important.
Yes.
So let's talk a little bit about the workshop part of this talk. Like, what can I do as an entrepreneur? What are some daily small changes, habits that I can make into my schedule that just gets me slightly ahead? And is there in like obviously I advise anyone that specifically founders to have, besides that board of director or part of that board of director, a professional mental health provider, a clinician that they touch base with every so often, and then they talk, and also they get diagnosis, they get help, they get professional help. But that's a given. But what are some of the quote unquote self-help strategies, like small changes that they can make to enhance their performance and prevent a burnout?
Yeah, I think, the small daily habits are so important, right? The taking a vacation every few months, sure, is helpful. And that's actually something I recommend to all of my entrepreneurs and leaders, is that they schedule in their calendar. Anyone who works with me knows I'm going to say this, sort of every quarter, you must book a week vacation. That is happening, right? But if you're sort of grinding to that, and every quarter, you just, the lead up to that is always on and go, go, go. That week vacation is not going to do anything for you, right? You're just going to be exhausted the whole time. You won't be able to fully enjoy it anyway. So yes, the periodic larger breaks are important, but you're going to get so much more out of doing smaller things every day rather than doing the bigger things infrequently. Okay, in terms of the ROI, it's on the daily habit. So what are some things that you can do, some practicalities? I think starting your day with the question, what do I need to do today to function at my best, is very important. Okay, so that's how you're going to start your day. What do I need? Because that's going to be different from one day to another, right? So maybe today, after thinking about it, okay, maybe I'm going to go for a walk over my lunch hour. Or maybe today, I'm going to do, I don't know, some meditation at my desk. Whatever it is, ask yourself at the beginning of the day, what do I need to do today to function at my best, is a very important question. And then leave time and space to do that thing. Sometimes people think, I can't, right? It's the always on mentality. I can't afford to do even the little things in the day. It's like, stop. That is just not true, because everybody can take 5 minutes, and that's all that's needed to do little things throughout the day to help reset. Starting your day with a self-care routine can be very helpful. And again, it doesn't have to be anything more than 5 minutes. 3 to 5 minutes is effective, where you just start your day with something like some breathing techniques. Maybe it's meditation. Maybe it's journaling, if you like doing that. It helps to sort of set the tone of your day, set intentionality, but also can serve as an anchor. And if you do that every day, then that becomes routine for you, and it no longer feels like work, right? I find a lot of entrepreneurs, because they wear so many different hats, they're often doing things that they shouldn't be doing, right? So I have something called the magic question. When someone comes to me and they're like, I'm doing all of these things, it's like, okay, let's take a look at everything. And the magic question is, when you're looking at some of these things that are stressing you out, ask yourself, as a leader of this organization, should I really be doing this? Is this a good use of my time? Whatever, let's say it's some, admin thing. Should the CEO of a company be doing this? So in other words, take a look at all of the things that you're doing and ask yourself, do any of these not require my specialized skills and my brain power today? Is there somebody else who can do them? In other words, I'm talking about delegating, which can be a hard thing for entrepreneurs and leaders to do, right? But if there is something that you can delegate that doesn't require your specialized skills, pass it on, right? Leave time in your calendar for that self-care time. And again, just block off 5 minutes periodically throughout the day. Micro breaks, right? We call these micro breaks. Micro breaks have been shown by the research to be very, very effective. 5 minutes every couple of hours, block it off in your calendar so nobody bothers you. But then you yourself have to make sure that nothing else eats at that time. So protect that time and do something, again, just to help reset the nervous system. It can be so important. So again, it's these small little daily things that are going to have a much bigger impact on your mental well-being, rather than saying, well, I'm going on vacation in 4 months, so I'll just grind until then. That doesn't work.
Oh, there's so many questions that I have. Amazing, amazing, amazing information. We're gonna get back to vacation because I have a question about vacation. What kind of vacation? But for delegation, why do you think sometimes leaders like, because I sometimes also have a hard time delegating tasks. Maybe it's like a matter of like wrong expectation, or a matter of like it doesn't really occur to me. And when you were talking about it, I thought of a lot of situations that I should ask myself, like, what are you doing? Is this really?
Do I have to be doing
Yeah,
this?
yeah,
Right.
it's the best use of your time.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, like what causes that? Have you had any common reason amongst the leaders that are your clients?
Yeah, I think it's a couple of things. A lot of it has to do with control. It has to do with control because leaders are very driven people. They're very goal-oriented people. And they like things to be done a certain way. And they have the unhelpful thought of, it has to be this way. I'm like, well, that's another thing we take a look at. Does it? And sometimes it's like, do you want it done the right way, or do you just want it to be done? Like, somebody's going to have to pick one. And is it better? Can you let go of some things? Does this, I don't know, email have to be written, perfectly, or is it good enough? Sometimes it's just good enough. And so get it out and have someone else do it, right? So it has to do, I think, just sometimes with control and how sort of driven entrepreneurs can be and leaders can be. But you see, that's not good either, because when you take everything on yourself, when you don't delegate, it sends a message to your team that you don't think that they're capable, right? When a CEO is doing things that a CEO should not be doing, it does send a message. It's like, okay, I don't think my team is capable. And you're also then training your team members not to do those things, right, that they should be doing. And so sort of nobody wins in the end, right? So yeah, we need to reframe delegating. Initially, people have a hard time letting go. It's control. You have to reframe what you're telling yourself about delegation and what you think is going to happen if you delegate to others.
It's very true. But as we are getting close to holiday season, you mentioned vacation a couple of times. I've myself, I never truly have had any vacation. I always come by. I have a PhD in finding a work reason to travel to the places that I like to visit. But I often come back, more tired than the beginning. Like, what defines a good vacation, and how should leaders look at taking time off?
That's it, right? Anything that is restorative, relaxing, regenerating, re-energizing for you, right? And sometimes people ask me, where should I go on vacation? I'm like, I don't know, because that's so subjective, right? You know, someone wants to go hiking, that's someone else wants to go to a beach, somebody else, I don't know, wants to, you know, go on an adventure tour. Like, it's whatever is recharging, re-energizing, resetting for you. But then you can't have it both ways. When you're on this vacation, you can't work. It just that doesn't align, right? Listen, it's not easy. It's not easy. I had to test this out myself this summer. I took a 2-week vacation, which was the longest I've ever taken in the past 6 years, and I was very nervous. So I speak from, I'm not just saying, you know, I get it. I was so nervous, but you know what? I left, and guess what? PathWell is still standing. The place didn't fall apart, right? So was a very important lesson for me to learn as well, that I can go. I've put the right people in place. I have a very competent team. I can just relax. I can go. Things won't fall apart. And then I came back better, you know, more re-energized. And then I'm going to be better to everybody else around me if I also disconnect and take some time away as well, right?
It's very important. It's very important. Um, I want to talk now about ask your opinion about something that I think many leaders, particularly male leaders, have a very hard time to cope with, and that's the whole concept of vulnerability. Like,
Mm.
not being right. It's attached to a little bit of ego, and a whole lot set of things that comes with being seen as vulnerable. What do you have to share with us about that?
Yeah, this is a big one. So I think, and you know, part of my work with entrepreneurs and leaders is just this, especially male. You are right. Um, it's really important to learn to reframe vulnerability and what vulnerability means. For some people, vulnerability is thought to imply a weakness, right? That's that stigma part that we talked about earlier. But what I say to my leaders is there is just now ample data that shows that when a leader is vulnerable, they are more trusted by their team members. The ROI on vulnerability is very clear. So when a leader is vulnerable, teams trust them more. It is one of the best things that the leader can do to ensure psychological safety in their company. And when teams and employees feel psychologically safe, they're going to be more productive, right? They're going to be more creative. They're going to share with the leader when they're struggling, right? If they're making a mistake. A leader who comes in to project, you know, confidence, invincibility, nothing's wrong, everything's great, I'm great, that's not going to do anything to foster psychological safety on teams. And what that's going to do is make team members feel that they can't struggle with anything, right? And so they might like hide things or hide mistakes, and that's not good, right? Sometimes leaders will say to me, well, I don't really have the confidence to render myself vulnerable. And confidence doesn't precede vulnerability. It's the relationship is the other way around. Challenge yourself to be a bit more vulnerable in your company as a leader, and you'll see that then confidence follows from that, because you'll reap the benefits of that, right? This people have some ideas of what it means to be vulnerable, and so then they keep everything in, they don't share anything, and they don't get to challenge those thoughts and see the actual benefits that come along with being vulnerable. Now, also, what does that mean? That doesn't mean that as a leader you share everything that's going on, you talk about your problems with your team, and you're crying at work every day. Like that's not what we do. That's not what that means. But what being a vulnerable leader means is sometimes, yeah, sharing the fact that you're having a tough day, or sharing that you're struggling with a problem and then saying to your team, well, okay, but this is, my ideas as to how I'm figuring this out. What do you think? Let's figure this out together, right? Not projecting this sort of, glass like perfect mirrored image of invincibility. That's not helpful at all. So the ROI and vulnerability is very clear. We have to change the meaning of vulnerability, and then what I do with my leaders is just challenge them. Just take that first step to becoming a bit more vulnerable and just authentic and real, and see what you get back.
I think we can have a full-on session workshop on like the line,
You can.
how to be vulnerable and how to not overdo it,
Right.
and use the right words, because at the same time you don't want your team feeling that they're kind of being led by someone that doesn't have a clue, of what's going on. And is really finding that fine line is key. And I think as a leader of a company, it's your duty to be truthful about certain things, particularly the financial well-being of your organization. It's only fair.
Yes. Yes.
And this is like an exercise that I think a lot of entrepreneurs are having a trouble with, and often I find when they crack the code and know how they can communicate it with their team, they might have some additional information, some practical steps for you that you can take into consideration that you never thought of,
Right.
and that could create new business opportunities. Um, but yeah,
Right. Right. The best business opportunities have come from like struggles, right? Or something that hasn't gone well. But if you don't share that, exactly to your point, you keep everything in, like secrecy doesn't solve anything, right? It makes everything worse. And again, just then fosters this unhelpful idea that, leaders, entrepreneurs have to figure everything out themselves. And as we said, right, over time, that's not sustainable, and that's a recipe for burnout. So, yeah.
I have written an op-ed on exactly that the pressure and crisis, often unleashes creativity, and it's
Mhm.
going to be published on I think on November 28 on futureeconomy.ca. And in that
Lovely.
article, I also like challenge the government leaders, because Canada, I feel like, is a little bit in the same crossroads, like with all the external pressures of what's going on at home. And I'm challenging policymakers to set aside that, status quo kind of mindset and think outside of the box. Use this as an opportunity. Anyway, um,
Yes.
so when should someone, Gina, recognize that they need professional help? To be honest, I think anyone should have professional help, regardless of your status, because that's going to be super helpful for you to prevent from needing to have
Right.
everyone needs, but when you need to prevent the need. I'm sure I'm
Yes.
saying
A
what I.
hundred percent.
Yes.
I
So
agree.
what are those signs?
I agree. Yes. Let's underline and, bold and highlight that. So, preventative mental health is much better than repair work, right? It's no different than physical health, obviously, right? Preventative, doing things to prevent illness, right, is better than treating the illness. The same is true for mental health. We can absolutely intervene at the illness stage, but that's more work. That takes longer. We need the heavier artillery for that, right? The bigger tools. I always say to my clients, it's much easier if you come to me in the early stages. It's much easier for me to take out, a flame from a match rather than put out, the flames of a burning house. I can do that, but that's going to take me longer. I'm going to need other team members. It's more equipment, right? And then there's more damage to deal with after the fact as well. So preventative is always, always best. So yes, ideally seeking help as early as possible. Nobody knows everything, right? Entrepreneurs, like, we have our blind spots, and speaking to a coach, a therapist, doing that preventative type of work helps to also see, right, those blind spots and then intervene before they become problems, right? But sort of to answer your question, okay, if someone's not sure, do I, don't I, you always look for changes in patterns, right? So the ones we talked about earlier, if your sleep has changed, if your mood has changed, if you're more irritable, if you're experiencing more anxiety, and beyond, just a few days, if it's starting to be a few weeks like that, if you're experiencing stress that then is impacting your focus, your concentration, stress that is impacting your relationships, other people are noticing, right? People are saying to you, like, hey, are you okay? I've noticed I don't know, you're a bit like off. There's something different about you. Then definitely, right, seek help. If you're losing that sense of motivation, again, that cynicism, right, definitely then seek help, speak to somebody. And then, it goes without saying, if there's any safety concerns, like you're starting to experience suicidal thoughts, which entrepreneurs are more prone to as compared to the general population. Or substance abuse, right? You're using drugs or alcohol to cope. Well, then, run, don't walk, right? Seek help immediately.
I think one area that stress and mental health of entrepreneurs really shows itself is in addiction, alcohol.
Yep.
I've seen um, uh, like a lot of entrepreneurs, basically high achievers. Like I've seen a lot of lawyers
Yes.
that is struggle, and I wish we had this baked in. Is it like it's a spectrum, right? Like what's the definition of social drinking or social smoking? You know, and entrepreneurs they have to, especially the startup founders, they have to attend so many events to network, and it comes with that culture. You get a glass of wine or a beer, and you almost feel left out if you walk around with a cup of orange juice. So
It's
I,
normalized for sure in that culture. But yeah, it's
I always like I have a glass of water, and it's no problem. And I tell everybody, it's like, oh no, I can't do this. I've been doing it forever. It's okay. No one's gonna say, oh, why don't you have beer? I'm not gonna talk to you. Right? So
yeah,
but anyway,
it's true. It's true. But yeah, those are band-aids, right? That be very dangerous over time.
and you mentioned like relationships, and I wanted to ask, how can like these leaders, entrepreneurs, work with their partners to help them understand their situation, but don't make them, panic, but also kind of maybe add them to that board of directors or don't, if
Yeah.
they don't want to involve them in the business details or like some of the challenges and problems that they're facing. But how can they really use or leverage or their spouses to empower themselves to be also a better partner for their partner, while being a leader of an organization or being responsible for a group of employees? Do you have any
Yeah.
suggestions?
Sure. Well, hopefully, if you're lucky enough to have a supportive partner, it goes back to, what we were saying earlier around vulnerability. Share with your spouse how you're feeling. But now your spouse doesn't have to be your therapist, right? Because that's not healthy either. But let them know what's going on with you. Because sometimes leaders, entrepreneurs, like they feel like they have to shield their partners from what's going on, right? If they're having like, they don't want their partners to worry about, finances or anything like that. But like, let them in, because your partner's, is one of the people who probably knows you the best and might be able, again, to offer a different perspective, right? Or you can share with them, like, what are your early warning signs of stress? Because they can help, again, not in a therapist way, but they can help with that accountability. Hey, Saeed, I noticed, you haven't, it's been like a week. You've been tossing and turning a lot. Like, you're not sleeping really well. Like, you might want to check in with your coach or your doctor. Is everything okay? Right. So they can help to keep you accountable if they know what your early warning signs of stress are as well. And sometimes, yeah, we suggest that the spouses themselves get some support. It was like I was saying earlier, right? We support not only here at PathWell the entrepreneurs and the leaders, but also their families, because often the families need some support and help of their own as well.
It's very important, and I think it's you very well put it that their role can be to support, and they need to be obviously like themselves feel supported,
Yeah.
and to be able to provide that support. So, in closing, is there any one thing that you want every entrepreneur watching today in our audience to take away from this conversation? What would it be?
I'd say, entrepreneurs, if you're a leader of an organization, you are like the engine of your company, right? If you don't take care of that engine and that engine breaks down, then everything around you suffers, right? So taking care of your physical health, but also your mental health, it's not indulgent at all, but it's a business necessity. It's strategic. Build that into your business strategy, right? Because without it, it's just not sustainable. We say, leadership starts at the top, right? The tone of leadership starts at the top. If a leader is not okay, that's going to trickle down. And then nobody in the organization is okay, right? So by taking care of yourself, you are then taking care of others, but also ensuring sort of the general health of your company. And again, you don't have to do that alone. It's not wise. It's not a good business strategy to do that alone. So build that board of directors, get help, get some coaching. You do not have to go at it alone. That's just not helpful to anybody.
Well, thank you so much, Gina. I, as the founder of TranQool, I had to hire be well over 400, 500 therapists. So I have an eye for a good one. And I think you're amongst the top. And everyone that's watching, if you need help, consider finding Gina's LinkedIn or the PathWell's website. I'm sure you have created a vetting system that your colleagues and associates are also like have that high quality professional care, that standard that you're offering, and I recommend everyone to taking a look and reach out, obviously, to get help. So, thank you, Dr. Di Giulio, for your time and for this amazing conversation. I know everyone watching got tremendous value from today's session and your insights. For those of you who joined us today, I hope this gave you permission to take your mental health seriously. At NextStars, we are committed to fighting the stigma around mental health and ensuring that every entrepreneur has access to the support they need to thrive, not just survive. Your well being isn't separate from your success, it's the foundation of it. If this conversation resonated with you, share it with a founder in your network who needs to hear it. Follow PathWell and Dr. DiGiulio for more resources. Stay connected with NextStars for more conversations like this one. Take care of yourself, and thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much.